Hey everyone, welcome to Better Health. I am here with Catherine Arnston, who is the founder and CEO of Energy Bits, and she's going to be talking all things algae. So thank you for coming on the show, Catherine.
Yeah, well, April, thank you so much. And here we are in the month of April. So,
How ironic. Funny how that
how
works.
do you have a sister named May?
No, but her middle name is May. So funny you say that.
No kidding.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So you're
There you go.
that's really jazzy.
I know. I was like, I got a good comeback for that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, I'm just Catherine. Well, actually, my new moniker is the Algae Gal because I'm all things algae. So, and hopefully by the end of this podcast, your community will be too, because it's if there's anything as close to a miracle food, this is it.
Amazing. Well, I'm excited to learn more about it. I know about algae, but knowing that you're probably like the algae expert, this will be really valuable for everyone, including myself.
Yeah.
The first question to get us a little bit warmed up is just give us a little context on where you grew up, your background, and where you live now.
Sure. Well, I'm actually Canadian, born in Toronto, lived around Toronto most of my life. My family's all still in Canada, in Vancouver and whatever. And I live in Boston, Massachusetts now. I've lived here 33 years. And I enjoy Boston, but as I say, all my education was in Canada. I did an MBA, geography degree actually in my undergrad.
No way.
And then my MBA was in international business. And so I developed an international business career, that was satisfying enough. Maybe not my passion, but it, was good enough. And then 13 years ago, my younger sister, who I'm very close to in Canada, developed breast cancer. Now, first of all, I want everybody to know that she's fine. She completely healed, and we celebrate her being cancer-free. She's on year 11.
Wow.
But when she was preparing for her chemotherapy, her oncologist, which is a cancer specialist, recommended she change her diet to an alkaline diet. Now, they didn't tell her what an alkaline diet was or why it was good for her. So the first call she made was to me, her big sister, who loves her. And I'm also just a very good researcher. I'm also the chief scientific officer for our company, which is why and how I've developed all this knowledge on the science of algae. So anyways, I said, I have no idea what an alkaline diet is, but I will find out. And I did. And it was mostly plant-based diet because of the phytonutrients and the chlorophyll that have been proven to build your immune system. So I read, about 10 books and about 100 scientific papers, gave her some food suggestions, which she followed. She went through chemo, completely healed. And as I mentioned, she's still cancer-free. Now, this was 13 years ago, and people were not talking about plant-based nutrition then. And as I read all the science about it, I thought it was pretty powerful stuff. And I'm just a very passionate person. I thought, well, I don't know how I'm going to get this word out because I don't have any nutrition background at all, but I need to tell people about this. So I gave up my corporate career of 25 years. I went back to the school. I got a certificate in health coaching at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. I took the bus down every weekend. I was the second last class that was live. There were 1,600 people in my class. They were held at the Avery Fisher Hall in Lincoln Center. And as I tell people, it was like going to a cross between an Oprah show and a rock concert every time. It was pretty cool. Anyways, I graduated in July 2009, and I put my own curriculum together to teach people plant-based nutrition. And this is truly what led me into the deep dive into algae, because as I was teaching people the importance of eating vegetables, they were telling me, hey, you're not telling me anything I don't already know. My mother's been trying to get me to eat vegetables since I was a kid, but it's just too much work. Let's face it, vegetables are heavy to carry home from the grocery store. Maybe you don't live near a grocery store right now with supply chain the way they are. They probably don't have as much selection as you used to. They take a long time to clean, to cook, to eat. And there are endless arguments at the dinner table with kids, guys, eat your vegetables, and they spoil. So that if I can't get people to eat more vegetables because it's too much work, I need to find something that will give them the nutrition of vegetables without any work. Once again, had no idea what I was going to look for or where I would find it, but I just thought I'd do a deeper dive into everything I found for my sister. And once I got to algae, that's when the miracle happened. Because first of all, algae is the most alkaline food in the world. So that box was checked. It's also the most nutrient dense food in the world. And that's not just my opinion. We have a quote from NASA that says 1 gram of algae has the same nutrition as 1,000 grams of vegetables, 1 to 1,000. That's a big number, and we're going to explain how that concentration occurs. So very nutrient dense. It's been endorsed. Spirulina algae, which is one of the two algae we're going to talk about today, has been endorsed by the United Nations since 1974 as the answer to world hunger. Why? Drum roll, because it has the highest concentration of protein in the world. It has 3 times the amount of protein as steak, and it's a complete protein, and we'll talk about that later on as well. On top, as if that wasn't enough, algae is also the most studied food in the world. A couple of most important things here is algae is food. It is not a supplement. I'm going to show you a picture of an algae farm in a few minutes. It is grown in hydroponically in fresh water. It does exist in the ocean, but spirulina and chlorella are grown hydroponically as an agricultural crop. It does not come from the ocean. So that's number one. Number two, there are 100,000 studies documenting the benefits of algae. That's a big number too. So we're not talking 10 or 100 or 1,000 or 10,000, 100,000. So the benefits I'm going to talk about today are on solid scientific foundation, irrefutable, frankly. So that's pretty cool. And algae's been used safely for over 60 or 70 years in Asia. In Japan, they don't leave their house without taking chlorella algae. And in Asia, it's a multi-billion, that's with a B, multi-billion-dollar agricultural crop. It's as big as the beef industry is here. And yet, nobody outside of Asia knows about the benefits, knows what it is, knows how to take it. And the Japanese have the best longevity, lowest cancer rates, and great skin and hair. And it's like, hey, we could do that too. So I decided, 12 years ago, I was going to devote the rest of my life to helping people outside of Asia, primarily starting with North America, understand what algae is, what it does, why you need it, and provide them with the safest, purest version of it, because most of it before was from coming from China, very low quality, lots of toxins, and that's not our algae. So that's how I became the algae gal.
That's an amazing story. And it's really incredible that you took, an issue that you hope to solve because you really cared about your sister, and you found out this amazing source of energy, food, nutrients, all the things. And now you have a business around it. So yeah. What is Energy Bits, your company? Talk to us a little bit about that. I know you gave some background, but for those that don't know.
Yeah, so, well, we are very small, so it's quite likely you don't know, but I hope that, soon you will. So we sell algae tablets, and this is why it's so great for helping people get the nutrition that they need, because the algae that I talked about, spirulina and chlorella, they grow in fresh water, as I mentioned. Ours is in triple filtered spring mountain water, which is important because algae will absorb whatever's in the water. So you need it to be clean or there will be toxins. So there's no toxins in our water. And then we air dry it. This is very important. We're probably the only company that doesn't use high heat to dry it. And why is that important? Because it does not kill the enzymes. And we're going to talk about a very important one called superoxide dismutase. I know it's a mouthful to say, but it's critical because it helps stop free radicals in your mitochondria. So all our algae is raw. Virtually nobody else's is raw. It's all dead because they use high heat. And then we press them into these little tablets. I'm going to show you. This is spirulina, which is a darker color because it has 2 pigments in it, blue, green, and green, which the green is chlorophyll. And then the chlorella, which is a green algae. So it just has chlorophyll. But these little tablets, and for people who aren't watching, they're about the size of a baby aspirin. And every single one of these tablets has the same nutrition as an entire plate of vegetables. This is why it's the answer for everything and for everyone, because you will never have to eat another vegetable in your life if you don't want to. If you like them, that's fine. But guys, kids, and just when you're busy, I just pop one in my mouth now. I had the equivalent of an entire plate of vegetables. This is why it is effortless nutrition. One tablet, because I use the quote from NASA about 1 to 1,000 in terms of nutrition. One tablet has the same nutrition as a heaping plate of vegetables that you didn't have to buy, clean, cook, or eat. So I'm here to help people be healthy. I didn't plan on starting a company. I just wanted to help my sister. And then when I realized that I could help other people, I just kept going. And then I found algae and I thought, well, this is the answer because it is effortless nutrition. In fact, The algae has 40 vitamins and minerals, both the spirulina and chlorella, over 60%, highest concentration of protein in the world, highest concentration of chlorophyll in the world, highest concentration of iron in the world, highest concentration of these antioxidants in the world. This is I call it your nutrition insurance, because if you have 5 or 10 of these a day, you have just given your body all the nutrients it needs to perform optimally. Your body, your brain, your gut, your organs, everything. That way, when you do go out to eat, it's just for entertainment or taste bud delight. And so Energy Bits as a company is all about helping people be healthy by making it safe, pure, and easy to get the nutrition that you need and remove the toxins that you don't. Because the reason why people are getting sick is twofold. They're not getting the nutrition that they need, and spirulina is the easiest way to do that. And when you take our spirulina, which we call Energy Bits, every day, you can eliminate virtually most of your other supplements, like a multivitamin, collagen, biotin, fish oil, magnesium, potassium. You can get rid of all of those because they're all in the spirulina. And chlorella, which we call Recovery Bits, has the highest chlorophyll in the world. Chlorophyll is what makes plants green, and it has 500 times more chlorophyll than arugula. So chlorella replaces your need for vegetables, and it removes toxins. The average adult has 700 toxins in their body now. 700. And those toxins cause damage at the cellular level, mitochondrial level, in your brain. And so you have to get rid of them. And we'll talk about how chlorella algae does that, which is why we call our chlorella Recovery Bits, because it helps you recover your health, or recover from drinking because it also pulls out alcohol, or recover from sports because it pulls out lactic acid. So the two of them together, spirulina in the morning, because that's when you're hungry and tired and need energy or focus, and chlorella at night, because when you sleep, your body goes through a detox and repair cycle. The two of them will keep you alive forever. Probably.
So there's chlorella and there's spirulina. So
yes.
If you could just give a brief rundown of like, what is the key difference between the two of them, because they're both an algae and they both
yes.
have their own set purposes.
Yes.
What is the main difference between the two?
So spirulina is actually technically a bacteria, and it's called a cyanobacteria. And the reason why that's important to know is because it has no cellulose wall. So there is nothing for your body to break down to get access to the nutrients and the protein. So it gets absorbed instantly. If you chew it instantly, if you swallow it, maybe in 5 or 10 minutes. So this is why when we first started, we actually became a sports nutrition company, because the marathon and triathletes found out that it gave them energy and got into their system quickly, steady energy, and didn't upset their stomach. So the steady energy comes from the high protein. It has 18 of the 20 aminos. So anybody who knows anything about nutrition, your body can't absorb protein as protein. It has to break it down into these smaller building blocks called amino acids. So because both of them have the protein already in amino acid, again, there's nothing for your body to break down. So it gets all those great aminos because it gets absorbed instantly, and it is loaded with B vitamins, which convert the aminos into energy. So spirulina generally is known as an energizing algae, both physically and mentally, and it releases nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator, which opens up your blood vessels, so that gives you energy. And there's lots of other, it has boron and essential fatty acids like omega-3. It's a magical nutritional cocktail that Mother Nature has cooked up for us to give us energy. So that's and they're both ketogenic, by the way, but only spirulina will satisfy your hunger. So spirulina in general is known as an energizing algae, which is why we called ours Energy Bits. Now, I found after we launched that women actually weren't attracted to the packaging. And because I started the company because of my sister, I'll do anything to help women, be healthy. And because there's more collagen in it than collagen powder, which builds your skin and hair, I created a second brand of spirulina and called it Beauty Bits. But they are absolutely identical, not trying to trick anybody, just that women just like things that are pink and pretty. So they both do exactly the same thing, but very energizing. And I'm going to circle back to the energizing part in a minute, because I want to talk about mitochondria health, because your mitochondria are what generate ATP at the cellular level for everything in your body. This is for your digestion, for your thinking, for your sleeping, for your activity. So it's more than just physical or mental energy, it's metabolic energy. So, but anyways, spirulina is the one for that, and satisfying your hunger. It's also great for losing weight, because it satisfies your hunger. If you had 10, there's 1 calorie per tablet. And so that for 10 calories, you can be full for, a couple hours, or, have 20 for a meal replacement, and you're fully nourished. So that's pretty sweet. The other algae is Chlorella, which is a green algae, as compared to spirulina, which is a blue-green. Now, Chlorella does belong to the plant kingdom. And in fact, it has the hardest cell wall in the plant kingdom. Spirulina, remember, has none, and is a bacteria. Chlorella is part of the plant kingdom. And a couple important things to know about that is Chlorella has the highest concentration of chlorophyll in the world, as I mentioned. And you may say, well, what's so important about chlorophyll? Well, there's a lot I could talk to you about, but I'll give you a couple points. Number one, chlorophyll and your blood, your hemoglobin, are virtually the same chemical composition. The only difference is that your blood has iron in the middle, which is what carries oxygen, and your chlorophyll has magnesium. Otherwise, they're identical. This is why chlorophyll helps you be healthy, because it builds your blood. They've been using chlorophyll for centuries for healing. And in fact, even as recently as World War II, they would, if they ran out of blood for transfusions, they would give them liquid chlorophyll, and they would heal just as fast because it builds their blood. If you've ever noticed anyone who has dogs, they'll eat grass when they're sick. They intuitively know to eat the chlorophyll, which is very cleansing. So that's number one. Chlorella, very cleansing because of the highest chlorophyll in the world. Number two, the hard cell wall attaches to toxins. Lead, mercury, radiation, aluminum, absolutely anything pulls them out. Alcohol, even the United Nations used it at Chernobyl to pull out radiation. When the Fukushima disaster happened about 10 years ago, the entire global supply of chlorella was bought up within 24 hours, because everybody in Asia knows it's the only thing that will remove radiation as well. We work with biological dentists who use it to pull out mercury when they pull out fillings. They take it as well as their patients, because there's mercury fumes. So that hard cell wall is a chelator. The chlorophyll is cleansing, but the hard cell wall definitely is a chelator, easily replaces activated charcoal. So that's number two. Chlorella also has some fiber, because it has that hard cell wall, and that fiber heals your gut biome because it feeds the bacteria short chain fatty acids. So overall, and Chlorella rather has lots of other healing nutrients, the highest RNA and DNA in the world, daily requirement of K2 that moves excess calcium out of your soft tissue, like your blood vessels, where it can cause arteriosclerosis, moves it into your bones, has the highest tryptophan in the world, which is the precursor to melatonin and serotonin. So everything to do with Chlorella is a health and wellness algae. And that's why we call it recovery bits, because it helps you recover your health, or recover from sports, or recover from drinking. And one more thing I'll mention about the high chlorophyll, because this is very, very important. I did some tests years ago. I would put some tablets of the spirulina in a plate and with water, and this beautiful blue color would disperse evenly through the water. It was gorgeous. It looked like the Aegean Sea. And then when I did the same thing with the chlorella, all that came out of it was the clumping of the green, which was the chlorophyll, but it clumped. It didn't disperse like the beautiful blue of the spirulina. And I did it so many times, and then I finally had my epiphany, which has since been verified by science. Chlorophyll is a fat-based pigment. The blue pigment in spirulina is a water-based pigment, which is why it heals lots of blood and issues, like it stops the growth of tumors, stops the growth of blood vessels to tumors. But chlorophyll is a fat-based pigment. And the reason why that's important to know is because your health starts at the cellular level. It's the mitochondria in the cell, which we'll talk about in a minute, but it's also your cell walls. Your cell walls need to be permeable so that nutrients can get in and toxins can get out. And the way to do that is with healthy fats like omega-3, D, A. Well, Chlorophyll does it too, because it's a fat-based pigment. So the best analogy I give people is, when you have dirty windows, you can't see out and sunlight can't get in. So think of chlorophyll as window washers for your cell walls, because when your cell walls are permeable, everything is working properly, including keeping your pH of the cell to a slightly alkaline state so that there's enough oxygen to function properly. So Chlorella is very much a wellness algae. And as I mentioned at the beginning, your body goes through a detox repair cycle when you're sleeping. So we generally recommend Chlorella tablets at night. You can take them any time of day. In fact, I have them all day long. I eat them with pistachio nuts or macadamia nuts. They're my favorite snack. Spirulina, probably everybody should swallow those ones. You can chew them, I do, but it's very, very chewy because of the high protein and the high essential fatty acids. It's not a flavor most people like, so I would stick with swallowing that one. Chlorella, you can swallow or chew. And in terms of quantities, if you're very anemic and not had a good diet, you could start with 2 or 3 tablets of each day. We try to encourage people to take at least 5 or 10 to truly feel some benefits, because 5 or 10 would be sufficient of the spirulina to replace that multivitamin, the fish oil, the CoQ10, the biotin, and the 10 of the chlorella at night would give you all the wellness benefits. For detox, you do need closer to the 20 or 30. Now, because they taste good, at least I think they taste good, it's not such a hardship. So you can take their food. Remember their food? I forgot to show you a picture of the algae farm. So here's a picture of an algae farm. This one happens to be spirulina. It grows in long, narrow pathways. So you're just giving yourself the most nutrient-dense food in the world, and it's effortless. If you can swallow water, in seconds, you are giving your body all the nutrients it needs to perform optimally and protect your mitochondria, protect your longevity, protect your health, or help you get back to a state of health. It's unbelievable what this stuff does. And it's a gift to us from Mother Nature. It was the first life on Earth, almost 4 billion years ago. So it just needs to be explained to people.
Got it. So what's the research behind it or the history behind it in regards to, the Asian countries were using it, and, what were they using it for? And tell us a little bit about the background.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And it took me, when I started the company, like I said, I wasn't planning on starting a company. I just wanted to help my sister. And I had no science background, so this was all new to me. So I was by myself for 4 years researching stuff about algae. And so I stumbled across stuff that I don't think anybody else in the world even knows about, but I have the documents to prove they're true. So algae was discovered in the late 1800s by a Danish scientist who discovered it had high concentration of protein. And, then the way science works, I read a statistic recently that once there's been a scientific discovery, it takes an average of 17 years before that discovery kind of infiltrates just the scientific world. And then it's another 25 years before it gets to consumers. So this Danish scientists discovered algae, and then the Germans started researching it even more in the early 1900s and discovered that it was not just high protein, but high edible protein. And this came in really handy because apparently during World War I, lots of areas of Germany were bombed out and there was no agriculture and no livestock. So I don't know the details on this, but apparently the German government contacted the scientists because one of them, Otto Warburg, had won a Nobel Prize for discovering the protein and chlorophyll in chlorella. And so they somehow found a way to grow chlorella algae and fed it to the Germans to get them through that period when they had no food. And that was back in the 40s. And then it was forgotten until World War II. And the Hiroshima bomb was dropped on Japan. And again, a little foggy on the details, but apparently the Americans learned about how the Germans had used chlorella to feed their people after the World War. So there was something called the Marshall Plan, where the American government agreed to help the Japanese get back on their feet by sending them supplies and food. And one of the things they sent them was Chlorella algae because of the high protein. Now, interestingly, and this is where my documentation starts to pick up a little bit more detail. Interestingly, the people that got the Chlorella in Japan also healed from radiation poisoning. So so back in 1948, I guess it was, or 50 years around there, the Carnegie Institute and the American government said, well, what was that stuff? Let's research it a bit more. Maybe we should, explore it. So they funded a production plant in America to grow Chlorella algae for mass consumption. And I have the documents to prove it. And of all places, it was here in Boston, Massachusetts, right where I live. Do you believe that? But here's the trouble, and this is classic of North America, right? They only gave the production plant, it was in an Arthur D. Little production site. They gave it a year to get up to speed. Well, Chlorella is a very complicated plant. It has to start in a test tube and then get moved into a larger facility, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, after a year, it wasn't up to speed, so they shut it down. So that's like around 1950. So the Japanese basically said, well, that stuff saved our people. And if you guys aren't going to figure out how to grow it for mass consumption, we will. So the Americans sent all the science on how to, that they had collected, and I guess apparently the Germans did too, to the Japanese. And it took them 10 years to figure out the best way to grow Chlorella algae for mass consumption. And they nailed it. And that is why all of the algae production is based in Asia, because it started in Japan after World War II. And it expanded from Japan into Taiwan, and then China and Korea, and then they expanded it into spirulina. Spirulina previously had been grown a lot in Mexico, in Africa, and it has been, as I mentioned, known and endorsed by the United Nations since the early 70s as the answer to world hunger. But so 99% of algae is grown in Asia, 99% of algae is consumed in Asia. And that's why people in America don't know about it, because when you're in Japan and you're off to school and you're riding your bike to school, you drive by an algae farm, or you're on the train on the way to work, you go by an algae farm. Here we drive by a cornfield or a orange grove or something, but no algae farms because they don't exist here. I am planning to grow algae here. I found out I could grow it in Florida because of the climate is very similar. We grow ours in Taiwan, which is world renowned for having the highest quality algae. And the American government has even recognized the nutrient value of algae. It's also the most sustainable crop in the world. And they issued the very first Algae Agricultural Act in 2019 as part of the Farm Bill to encourage farmers here to grow it, because there's all these bills that fund farmers to grow corn, and they're subsidies basically. So they're now finally realizing algae is probably gonna save the world, and so they're eager to get it started to grow here, and I certainly plan to do that. But it's a fascinating story. The early years are a little foggy, but starting with the growing it in mass consumption back in the early 50s here, that's when I've got all the documentation. So it's pretty neat.
That is amazing. And how were you able to make sure that all the measures taken in regards to the places you use out in, whether it's Taiwan or whatever countries, are like the highest quality? Because I know that you mentioned that you have really high quality. How do you make sure of that?
Yeah, well, and again, when I was by myself, I had to teach myself, where the stuff was grown and what the quality was and standards. So number one, pretty much, I think we're the only company that I'm aware of that does third-party lab tests here in the United States at an FDA-approved lab. So other people, 99% of the algae that's available, whether it's at Whole Foods or Amazon, is grown in China. And contract manufacturers, and they're lower priced, but they're high volume. So they don't, and they're set up by companies who are, growing it to make a profit. Nothing wrong with a profit. I didn't start the company for that reason. I just started the company to help my sister, and then I just kept going. So when I learned about the different techniques, whether it was like, for example, water, well, we had to find a place that had the cleanest water to reduce any potential toxins there, microtoxins. And not only do we do third-party lab tests here in the United States by an FDA-approved lab, the company's called EMSL. I found, it took me 2 years, but I found another lab that tests for microtoxins. And because if you don't learn what you don't test for. So I needed to prove, because we sell our products, our algae, through doctors' offices. We don't sell through CVS or, GNC or Vitamin Shop, and I don't think we ever will. I wanted to be selling, because we have what's called physician grade algae, very, very high quality, very, very concentrated, very, very safe. So our community of retailers are chiropractors and functional medicine. And we started now selling through spas, but places where people were going to get more attention and where the quality had to be absolutely unquestionable. So our lab tests prove that. And so it's taken a long time to learn what the standards are and provide people with the lab tests. And just as an example of the kind of detail, because people think algae, I mean, how much variety, how could it be so different? Well, just like wine, I like Sauvignon Blanc, but I only drink Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand because I like the fruity flavor. I have tried California Sauvignon Blanc, Italian, nothing is the same as this New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. And algae is the same way. Yes, it's grown in water, so the quality of the water is important, but the angle of the sun, for whatever reason, Taiwan is at that latitude that catches the best sun for growing it, which is why I drew a line from Taiwan across America and I got to Florida, because I want the same kind of subtropical environments if I can replicate what we get from Taiwan. There are thousands and thousands of algae suppliers. And so you have to really know your stuff and know what to test for, what to ask. And the example I wanted to give you was with back to Chlorella. So it has, as I said, that hard cell wall. Well, it has to be cracked at production or your body can't absorb the nutrients. And I'm very grateful to a company called Sun Chlorella. They're the ones that really got the whole Chlorella industry growing, and they patented the technique to crack the Chlorella. And what they do is, and everybody else uses their technique except me, except us. And here's why. So when the Chlorella, their technique was to tumble it with glass beads, and the glass is physically cracks so it's a physical activity, but the glass heats up and lead from the glass leaks into the Chlorella, and so much so that I have a box of their packaging that says this box is known to contain a substance known to cause brain damage. And so when I was setting my company up and I learned about that technique and that there was going to be lead, I thought, well, that's not going to work for me. So I pursued more research and found a new technique that had just been developed, which was more expensive, which is what we use. And we pass the Chlorella through a sound chamber, and it's the vibrations that crack the Chlorella. So no lead and also no heat, because heat kills nutrients and also enzymes. And we'll circle back in a few minutes to the importance of one particular enzyme as well as chlorophyll when it comes to your mitochondrial health. But you see, I chose to do all this because my goal with my company was to make a difference in the world, find a way to help people be nourished effortlessly from something that was concentrated and safe. And not to, and I don't want to just speak disparagingly about my colleagues in the algae industry. They have a different business model, that's all. They need to get their stuff to market quickly, and they do it by using high heat and maybe not having quite the high standards. They're just larger entities, and they probably have thousands of other, or at least, anywhere from 10 to 100 other supplements. We sell nothing except algae. That's it. We're the experts. It's like, you don't go to your local doctor to have your heart surgery. You go to a heart surgeon. So, I go deep and narrow.
Yep. You niche down. That's for sure. So how can listeners get their hands on Energy Bits?
Yeah. Well, we have a website, energybits.com, and we sell our tablets in large bags. Now, the large bag has 1,000 tablets in them, and I don't want people to get sticker shock because a large bag is normally $125, but we have a 20% discount code, which is BHP, which stands for Better Health Podcast. There you go. And you get 20% off just put that BHP in the coupon box. But what I want you to understand is that using that quote that I have from NASA about 1 gram of algae has the same nutrition as 1,000 grams of vegetables, I use that calculation to determine there's the equivalent of 551 pounds of vegetables in each one of these bags. So not the same fiber, but the same nutrition. That's probably about 30 grocery carts of vegetables. Now think about it. That's 551 pounds at $3 a pound that you didn't have to buy, which would have been, $1,500, and 551 pounds you didn't have to carry home, clean, cook, or eat. So, and of course, we have to put an expiry date on them, but it's usually 2 or 3 years. And quite honestly, algae never goes bad. You could keep it for 2 years, 10 years. It might not taste as good, but if you're going to swallow it. And when you do swallow it, by the way, it's not like fish oil. There is no repeat. I tried for years to take fish oil. Man, I was burping that stuff up for hours. It was disgusting. Never happens with the algae. Never. Once it's in, it goes down, it stays down. So cool. It's great for kids, safe enough for newborns, for pets, dogs, cats, your grandparents. My mother years ago was in a nursing home, and man, if you weren't sick when you went to one of those places, you certainly got sick by living there because everybody was served white, mushy stuff. No nutrition in that. And your cells just need things to function. Your immune system needs nutrition to function. And I'm actually the one that discovered that the nutrient profile, especially the amino acid profile of spirulina, is virtually identical to the amino acid profile and nutrition in mother's breast milk. And we know that mother's breast milk is the perfect food, and that's what the baby gets. And it helps, the baby grow. Well, after the age of 2, you're not very likely to have access to mother's breast milk. So, algae is your next best thing. And because it comes in these little tablets that don't need refrigeration or mixing, you can throw them in your lunch bag, your work bag, your gym bag, your travel bag, because we also sell them in little pouches with 30 tablets in them. If you took 10 tablets a day, this is 30, this would last you 3 days. You can buy them on Amazon for $5 if you want. So they're really convenient. So whether you might want to take them initially for energy or for hunger or weight loss, and you'll find out that you have lower inflammation, better sleep, or maybe you take chlorella because you want to detox, and your skin will get smoother because it has more antioxidants, more chlorophyll, you have less breakouts. I mean, it's really a one-stop shop, and I love it because it will replace so many other things. So it saves you not only time but money too. So
exactly. Well, amazing. Code BHP if you'd like 20% off.
Yes.
Thank you for all that, Catherine.
Yeah.
Now we go into the rapid fire questions.
Okay.
And maybe they'll have something to do with algae, but probably not.
Okay.
So first question is, what books are you reading right now?
I knew you were going to ask that. I just bought Dr. Gundry's newest book about keto diet. It's sitting because I'm being interviewed by him next week for a second time. So I'm reading that. I'm just I'm just going to dig into it starting tonight, in fact, so I can hardly wait. I love him. He is unbelievable. And what I love about him is that he's totally prepared to rattle the chains if there's some new science. He's not dogmatic just because he knows one thing. If there's something else that's newer that seems to make more sense, he'll explore it. So I like his other book that I loved was the Plant Paradox. So if you haven't read any Stephen Gundry, you can get everything on Amazon. Really, really good stuff.
Cool. Amazing. Next one is, what is your favorite food?
Wow. My favorite combination of foods is Chlorella tablets mixed. I'm eating them with a salt and vinegar version of pistachio nuts.
Yum.
And I'm favoring pistachios or macadamia nuts because, as you'll learn when you read Dr. Gundry's books, there's a lot of lectins and oxalates in a lot of nuts like almonds, which can cause damage to your gut lining. But pistachios are very low in them, and so are macadamia nuts. In fact, I don't think macadamia nuts have any. So that's my favorite awesome. Combination.
A nice trail mix right there.
Yeah.
What is your definition of intentional living?
Intentional living brings you joy in every thought and activity that you do. So you are purposefully, you're aware of what your soul wants and needs to feel fulfilled, and you don't apologize for that. I apologize for my choices for the longest time because I didn't want to follow the traditional path of getting married and having kids. I don't have children. My company is my child. And I don't apologize for it anymore because I just have a different path. I fought it for the longest time, but this brings me so much joy. It's like, wow, I can't believe I fought this for the longest time. So intentional living is accepting who you are, not apologizing for seeking your joy, and owning it and taking great pride in it.
Awesome. And the last one I have for you is, what is your favorite travel destination or a dream destination that you have?
Well, I'd love to go to Costa Rica on a yoga retreat, and I love trees. So any place with lots of trees and that's warm.
Yes, a warm
beach would be nice too, right? So exactly. Costa Rica is on the top of my list.
Very cool. I love it. Same with me. I'm pretty sure I'm going there in June, so I can
lucky
check
you.
it off for you.
Let me know where you go. Maybe I'll go next.
Amazing. Will do. Awesome. So how can listeners connect with you, Catherine?
Yes, so our website is energybits.com. We write a very extensive blog every month. So if you're not ready to buy anything, that's fine. Just come and learn. We're also very active on social media. We have 2 handles. The main one is Energy Bits. That's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. But we have another girly Instagram handle for Beauty Bits, which is @BeautyBits. So, and then, as I mentioned, if you aren't ready for that big bag of tablets, we do sell a sample pack. But you can also find us on Amazon in the United States for $5, prime shipping. You can just try them out. We're not here to push the product. We just want people to feel comfortable with it. Last year I turned 65, and this stuff, I am the living proof that this stuff works. And as I told my sisters, my new saying is, come alive at 65. Because if your body is getting the nourishment that it needs, your brain keeps going, your body keeps going, your joy keeps going. So don't let age stop you, whether you're really young or really old. Just like the Nike ad, just go out and do it. So learn as much as you can. We provide as much as we can possibly, but you can also Google it. So algae is going to be bigger than CBD, collagen. It just is taking a long time to get known here. And as I tell people, algae isn't new. It's just new to you.
Perfect. And you look amazing at 65. Catherine, thank you so much for being on the show. It was an honor.
Thank you so much.